Hello once again, all. Tonight I'm gonna be doing a little bit of a short review. It's almost less a review and more a discussion because I honestly didn't find time to actually sit down and watch a movie tonight. I got pulled away from home for a little bit, a lot later than I thought I would, and then I got Xenoverse 2 in the mail today. So yeah, um, time to get away from me a bit. But I promised you guys one every night until Halloween, and so we're gonna do this. Here we go. Um, the film that I think I'm gonna be talking about tonight is probably a movie that's very divisive among its the series that it's in, the fan base of it. Um, Partly because some of them think that it ruined the series by putting a cap on it and too tightly defining it. Other people think it redeemed the series because it took it back to its roots and reiterated the original point that was supposed to be part of the original film. And apparently my guinea pigs here have some comments. But bear with me here. And that movie is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, this was, to me, an interesting turn of events in terms of filmmaking because uh, it was Wes Craven's return to Elm Street. It was his return to the director's chair, especially. And Wes was only ever directly involved with three of the films in the franchise. There was part one, part three, and this. And there's a reason for that. When he made the original film, he never intended for there to be a sequel. So they went on and they made a sequel without it. And needless to say, that sequel, it didn't do so good. Um, So, I mean, he never intended for there to be a sequel. It was supposed to be one standalone thing with a message to it, and that was it. But the studio went ahead and they made their sequel. And to be frank, it kind of blew. Um, in that they took they broke a lot of rules established for the character in the last film. You know, he was supposed to be embodiment of fear, and now just cause he was able to decide, hey, you, I'm gonna be reborn through you and come out of the dream world into the real world and yet maintain all my power. And well, it was weird. It was just very weird. There were some really great visuals. I will give the movie that when that transformation would occur, when that would happen. But um, there were just way too many weird beats in the movie. Um, a really generic and kind of sappy and stupid love conquers all message in it. Um, and I mean, honestly, in certain scenarios that can work, but an Elm Street sequel really ain't one of them. And a lot of people have noted that there's actually a lot of um, homoeroticism in the film. You can debate that back and forth. You can debate whether or not you think that matters. You can debate whether or not you think these characters were gay. You can debate whether or not you think it matters. It don't matter. Um, but there was some stuff that was questionable. I'll give them that. But yeah, like the gym teacher and the leather bar and the punishments and the it was weird. But yeah, what bugged me about that movie though is just how disconnected it felt from the last one. Random it felt. Basically, it ended with Nancy, the girl from the first movie, just giving up and committing suicide, according to that journal they found there. Um, or at least I think they implied it. I don't really recall. Because I only watched that movie once and I didn't really go back. I didn't like it, but it didn't do near as well, and so they asked Wes to come back for the third one, which he did, and he wrote a more or less definitive ending for the thing, and then they continued it, because of course they did. And it culminated in part 4, which wasn't too bad, but really wasn't needed. Part 5, even less needed, and still not as good, getting way too over the top comedic. And by the time part 6 rolled around, Freddy was a complete joke, you know. He was no more for his jokes than he was for being scary. Um, it was just. And the movie itself tried to make him into a sympathetic character almost, but then at the last minute decided they were going to flip, making him quasi-sympathetic, and it was tonally inconsistent. It really was. But then this came, and to me, it's a fascinating piece of cinema because, I mean, I'm not going to go over the story with you, obviously. It's been out since 1994, and most of you know this by now, and I'm trying to keep this short. But to me, I love this movie because, first of all, it's Wes reclaiming his baby, his series. And once again, finding a way to reiterate the point, the plot, the message of the first film, the message about fear, the very idea of what horror movies are, but do it in a way that's still original and not just a rehash of the first film. And in this case, he opted to do a meta movie, a movie within a movie, and a movie about making a movie about Freddy Krueger. And it was so interesting to me because the angle they took, and I hadn't really seen that done before. You know, Heather Langenkamp played Heather Langenkamp. That was weird. And you had Wes himself in it. You had Robert Englund show up. Just all kinds of interesting. But it's not only interesting in terms of the franchise itself and reclaiming it, so to speak, but it also kind of set the foundation for what Wes would do later with the Scream franchise, which in its own way kind of challenged the horror genre to evolve because it called out how formulaic it had become and actually found a way to take those tropes and kind of turn them on their head to a degree, or at least, mock them, while still making a bit of a freaky movie. And while as the sequels did go on, it did start getting a bit more contrived and kind of silly. That was kind of the point, and they make that point in the films themselves. And the reason I do bring this up is this movie is on Netflix, and I really want to encourage people to go watch it with a completely different mindset. Don't watch it as like a continuation of those movies. Watch it as like a rescue of those movies. Watch it as a reiteration of what the original film tried to do, and notice how little it actually completely rehashed. And furthermore, it did rehash some in the form of Easter eggs, and those are pretty cool if you can spot them. But also, watch it and keep in mind where Wes's career went from there. And really, just watch it because it's from one of the people who I think really defined modern horror and really understood the genre as a tool and what it could be used for, and that it was more than just, some cheap scares and some gore, and you could really use it to have a point without being preachy about it on top of that. And it's really just a part of what, Wes Craven's genius really was. And just remembering the day we lost him is such a tragedy. So, if for no other reason than his memory, I really suggest you watch that. Or any movie that he's done, really, but especially this one, because I think it's kind of fascinating to see, a sort of bridging point from where he was and where he went. Um, God rest him. And honestly, I think it's a genuinely good movie. So I would give that a. Honestly, I think I actually forgot to give my rating for the whole too. That was a 3.5, just in case anyone's wondering, out of 5. This I would easily give probably a 4.5 out of 5. It's, if you want to go by tens, 8.5. Really good, really underrated movie. Really interesting in terms of Wes Craven's filmography, and really interesting as a genre piece in and of itself. At any rate, that's it for tonight. I know it's technically tomorrow already, but hey, that means you get two in one day, I guess. Uh, I will try to get one watched tomorrow. If nothing else, Friday night I may just marathon some movies, record a bunch, make it up then, have some ready to go for the next couple days. I'm trying my best to do this, but of course being ill doesn't help. But again, the Ask FM is still open. Still really hoping for really any kind of questions you guys want to toss at me. Um, and that is it for tonight, and I will catch you guys later. See ya.